Shalom and welcome back to the Tea Table. I pray today's message will bless you as much as it has blessed me as the Lord unfolded this teaching to me. During our Saturday morning service, the Lord had me deliver a word to the congregation which came from 2 Kings 6:16 and 17. "Don't be afraid," the prophet answered. "Those who are with us are more than those who are with them." And Elijah prayed, "Open his eyes, Lord, so that he may see." Then the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked and saw the hills full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elijah. I find it amazing that 9 little words can so drastically change a person's perspective from doom and gloom to hope and victory. You know, it doesn't tell me that Elijah was all bent out of shape after seeing the army that surrounded them and called an immediate prayer meeting to be delivered from the pending doom that seemed like a sure thing. How do I know that? Because the phrase or expression, "don't be afraid" or "fear not," always functions as the opening to prophecies of salvation throughout the Old Testament. We see it in Genesis 15:1. "Fear not, Abram, I am your shield." Genesis 26:24. God tells Isaac, "Fear not, I am with you and will bless you." In Isaiah 43:1 we read, "But now, O Jacob, listen to the Lord, who created you. O Israel, the one who formed you, says, Do not be afraid, for I have ransomed you. I have called you by name. You are mine." In Hebrew, the words "fear not" or "don't be afraid" means don't you ever be made afraid or ever be put in fear, morally or any otherwise. Elijah, the prophet of God, knew very well who Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were. These were the very men that God personally told them to fear not or don't be afraid, because he himself was with them. I'm sure Elijah was the kind of guy that probably told himself, "I don't have to see it to believe it. I will believe it and therefore will see it." In other words, he knew that what he couldn't see was already there, namely God's presence. 9 little words turned the tide from "they got us surrounded" to "we got them surrounded." Well, what made the difference? God. God's presence will always make the difference. The horses and chariots of fire were there before the eyes of Elijah's servant were open. Do you understand that the opening of your eyes by the Lord changes the entire situation? This is why we are told in Psalm 119, verse 18, "Open my eyes, Lord, that I may behold wondrous things out of your law." In Acts 26:18, he says, "To open their eyes and to turn them from darkness to light and from the power of Satan to God." All that I have shared with you has taken us to this very point. Many of us have looked at the mountains of our lives to see that we are surrounded by enemies, namely medical problems, financial setbacks, family predicaments, spouse issues, family problems, and the list goes on and on. Sometimes it would seem like we are but a cork floating on an ocean with no land in sight, or we're in a tunnel without any light at the end. We can personally relate to the situation in 2 Kings 6, verse 15. When the servant of the man of God got up and went out early the next morning, an army with horses and chariots had surrounded the city. "Oh no, my lord, what shall we do?" the servant asked. We see all the situations in our life surrounding us and we cry out, "Oh no, my Lord, what shall we do?" You know, it almost reminds me of the funny story where Tonto and the Lone Ranger were surrounded by 5,000 angry Indians on the warpath. And the Lone Ranger turns to Tonto and asks, "What do we do now?" To which Tonto replies, "What you mean we, white man?" The servant of the prophet asked, "What do we do now?" And the prophet basically said, "What do you mean we? I got my eyes on the invisible." And that, my friend, needs to be our position whenever a situation pops up in our lives. If all you can see is the mountain without any hope, lift your eyes to the hills and cry out, "Open my eyes, Lord, so that I may see." It will only take a moment from being surrounded by the enemy to we got the enemy surrounded. When God tells you to fear not or don't be afraid, it's really a statement of truth and fact, where God is telling you that He is there with you. And when He is there with you, there is no defeat. No, I hope this works out for the better. And no, let me try to figure out what I can do to make this problem go away. You are not under the circumstances. You are over the circumstances. Fear is such a burdensome emotion. We cannot deny that we experience, yet the Lord tells us in 1 John 4:18, there is no fear in love, meaning the perfect love of Christ. But perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment, and our punishment has been paid in full. 2 Timothy 1:7 tells us, "For the Spirit which God has given us is not a spirit of fear, but one of power and love and a sound mind." I ask you, if God didn't give us a spirit of fear of anything, then where did it come from? Well, it came from the father of lies. And if He gave it to you, then it must be a lie, and nothing more than a false, deceiving spirit that we can take control over in the name of Jesus, which is the character of Jesus. If you must fear, have a fear of the Lord, as it tells us in Psalm 34:9. Fear the Lord, you His godly people, for those who fear Him will have all they need. Proverbs 15:33 says, "Wisdom's instruction is to fear the Lord, and humility comes before honor." Remember, my friends, when you fear the Lord, which means to stand in awe, to be amazed at, then you cannot fear what man can do. David said, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear?" Isaiah tells us, "Behold, God is my salvation. I will trust and I will not be afraid." When you fear the Lord and trust Him, your eyes are opened so that you can see His presence that goes before you, behind you, all around you. And so, as the prophet prayed for his servant, I also pray that our eyes will be opened so that we may see that the hills and mountains of our lives are full of horses and chariots of fire, which is the presence of God all around us. And I leave you with this. Yevarechecha Adonai ve'yishmarecha, Ye'er Adonai panav elecha v'yihunecha, Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'yasemlecha shalom. The Lord bless you and protect you. The Lord cause His light to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn His attention upon you and give to you His peace. God bless, my friends, and we'll see you next week at the tea table.